fools are dancing, laughing, singing students of life.
I've thought about how it works, and I don't know.
Well, I have to
Is it
tell
ca-
you something.
Yeah.
I'm a visionary. Welcome to Fools on Fire, where flawed, fanciful folks have fierce fun trying to fan the flames of fearlessness. Join us, fools.
I went whale watching this morning. You
I already knew that.
did know that.
I did know that.
Yeah.
And then I confirmed it by going to find my friend app on the phone. And where's Dean? And you were in the middle of the ocean.
Oh, that's
That's
right. That's
cool.
right.
What's he doing
It
in the
was
middle of the
cool.
ocean? He's whale watching, just like he said.
Watching whales.
So was that fun? Did you like that?
I did. I had a blast. And it occurred to me that watching is kind of a weird word to use.
Yeah. Why?
Well, just because it's funny.
Well,
Because,
did you see any whales? Were there? Okay,
yes,
there were whales. Well, that's
there
good.
were whales. There were
Those.
whales and porpoises. Um,
Oh.
or dolphins.
Oh.
Actually, they weren't even dolphins. I can't remember the name of them, but they are the smallest uh, dolphin in the world. They're
Oh.
the smallest breed. They were so. Actually, shit, that's not true. Okay, whatever. What we saw. They called common dolphins.
Hmm.
But then there were people that came around talking to us, sharing with us information, and they pointed out that the smallest breed of dolphin, which is some word I can't remember, there's only 30 left
Oh.
in the world.
Oh man.
And so I asked them when there's 30 left, and I don't know if they know anything. They're like high school girls, is what they look like.
Mm.
Not that high school girls don't know things, but they just seem young and they
Mm.
may not know. But I asked them, I was like, if there's 30 of these things left, what are the chances they're going to come back? And they said, no, pretty good. And they rattled off a few other examples of animals that were down to similar numbers that are back off of the
Mm.
endangered list.
Mm. Well, that's uh encouraging.
Yeah, yeah, it
Hmm.
is. It's a gorgeous day, super fun.
Nice. Good for you.
What'd you do today, Lisa?
Oh. I couldn't sleep last night. Fuck.
Oh no.
I have a hard time falling asleep. I didn't fall asleep till probably 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, and then my stupid dog woke me up to go outside. And yeah, so I've been like a total sloth all day. And
Do you have things on your mind? What's kept you up?
my mind just wanders. I think last night I was in Mississippi. I don't.
Oh
Uh,
shit, really? Well, I'm glad you're back.
Thanks. Yeah. I think I'm gonna get some sleeping pills. I'm
Yeah.
all open to drugs now. Bring them on.
Oh, totally. Having read this book,
Yeah.
I know I'm encouraging everybody that I
Mm.
know to get on the medication.
Yeah. Well, and I have a friend who hasn't been sleeping well for about 6 months, maybe like 2 hours a night or 4 hours a night. And she finally bit the bullet and got sleeping pills. And oh my God, what a remarkable difference now that she sleeps for 8 or 9 hours.
She's civil.
Yeah, and she's chipper and chatty and bright-eyed and And what's interesting is that I read an article at one point, as I am apt to do, that for a long time they said, oh, depression causes insomnia. And now they're wondering if it isn't actually the reverse, that it's the insomnia that's causing the depression. Because it wrecks
Interesting.
your brain to not sleep. I mean, obviously it must be really bad for you, right? So
Oh, for sure.
this makes me wonder why people don't go on sleeping pills instead of antidepressants. Who knows?
Well, I mean, it could be, some people,
Who knows? But anyways,
who knows?
I'm gonna
Thank you.
I'm gonna do that. So
Get on
yeah.
sleeping pills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you tried meditation?
You know, I've always had trouble sleeping. I remember my dad taking me to the doctor when I was a kid, and he gave me all these little strategies, and I have employed them off and on to varying degrees of success throughout my whole life, but it's just exhausting. And I think it's sort of a vicious circle, right? Because you start getting worried about not being able to sleep, and then that makes you even less likely to be able to fall asleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. It's like erectile dysfunction.
yeah,
Not that I would know, but.
me neither. So,
This chapter of this book, not to change the subject,
please do.
but
Yeah.
okay, so to change the subject, the
Yes.
chapter of this book really, I notice it wherever I go now. Not only do I, because this chapter, we're folks,
Mhm.
this is Dean,
Yeah. Dean
and
is
that's
going to tell you
Lisa,
what's up right about now. Go ahead, Dean.
and that's Lisa, and we're fools on fire,
Yeah, we
and we're
are.
on chapter 4 of the Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. It's called The Fault of Others, and this chapter, not only do I see, it's about hypocrisy, essentially, is what Lisa told me, and
Or maybe the book told you that
or
when you
maybe that
read it.
maybe I know, but okay. So it's about one of the ideas in the book is hypocrisy,
Mhm.
and not only do I see that everywhere now,
Mm.
but some of the ideas from the book I have heard people talking about. Like I was watching Bill Maher the other night, and
Mm.
Bill Maher made the comment about, because that one guy who became president of the United States, he was talking about the idea that we have something to fight against now. Those of us who are against him
Mhm.
have something to fight against now. And
Mhm.
in the chapter, one of the comments that the author makes in the chapter is the idea that I should have to find it. But there is the idea in this chapter that we need we all have a tendency we feel like we're on a mission from God, and
Mm.
we need the devil to fight against. It's
Mm.
a quote from the book.
Mhm.
Um, and then I was listening to Sam Harris's blog,
Mm.
which I highly fucking recommend because
His
he is a
podcast?
genius. His
Right,
podcast,
right, right,
yes.
yeah.
Um, and he, not the Sam Harris that was on that singing show years ago, but the
The one that was on Bill Maher,
neuroscientist.
the
Yes.
neuroscientist. Yeah.
Yes, but I
Yeah.
I haven't even seen that episode yet
Oh, that was just
of
last
Bill
night's,
Maher.
yeah.
I listen to Bill Maher's or Sam Harris's podcast separately.
Mm.
And in his podcast, he was talking with some other scientist about gossip.
Mhm.
And the other guy was talking about how gossip is useless, and there's all this research about how, well, mainly what we talk about is gossip, and it's basically a waste of time.
Right.
And Sam, because this guy has probably read this book, because he's a fucking genius,
Mm.
and I have a big old crush on him, which maybe I mentioned once before.
I think you did.
I think I did. Um, he said, well, gossip does play a function. Gossip functions to keep, people in order.
Mhm.
We become more moral and ethical
Mhm.
if we believe or understand that others might talk about us.
Mhm.
Keeps us in check.
Mhm.
I was like, shit, Sam, that's exactly what I'm reading about in my book right now.
Mhm.
Would you get out of my head? Why are you in my head, Sam?
Mm.
So that.
Go on.
I do. I forget that people might listen to this, but I just this chapter, even though it's very vague to me now, like I don't feel like I recall really what I read.
Mhm.
I have noticed that it's all hypocrisy is everywhere,
Mhm.
everywhere. where.
Okay, so here's the question. How do you think that knowledge can contribute to your happiness?
I'm so much happier. Here's how it can. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. You are
Right.
wrong about you.
Yeah.
You're accurate like all the other yahoos around you, all these
Mhm.
other fools.
Yeah.
You have them nailed. You're right.
Okay. Okay.
She's a dumbass. He's an asshole. All that. But so are you.
And so am I.
And so are you. Exactly. But I meant so am
Right.
I.
Yeah.
That's how it can make you happier. What a load off.
Yeah.
Because it's so irritating to be the one who's right all the time. It is so fucking irritating.
I personally love it. I don't find it irritating at all.
But it's a lot of pressure
Mhm.
to live in a world full of jackasses and you're the one, that has her shit together.
Mm. Mhm.
It's like, how comforting is it to know that you're a jackass too?
Right. Yep.
I'm happier already.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and it does seem like there's a lot of problems that could be solved if people came to that realization that they're terrible people. Even just like the whole not in my backyard syndrome, right?
Hmm.
Oh, I want to save the planet, but don't wreck my view off of Cape Cod with those ugly windmills. Windmills,
Right.
right?
Right. Or a windmill.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I feel like it's a way to join the herd, right? Join the group, join the flock, be a part of it. Say yes to all of the craziness going on. You are not separate. You're not like I think one of the sections of the chapters is you're biased, I'm right.
mhm. Mhm.
And it's such an alienating, isolating place to be.
Mhm.
To be the one that's right in a world full of biased hypocrites.
Mhm.
And there's compassion there too. You can really acknowledging that you're misperceiving yourself.
Mhm.
That you what did I just say before I said you're misperceiving yourself?
Something about joining the herd.
Yeah.
Why is that funny?
I don't know. But yeah, I feel like there's compassion.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
there's a way in there's a way in you can find compassion, sure, for other people, but really for
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
you can just like set your self righteousness down. It's
Mhm.
heavy. It's
Mhm.
a burden. Lay the cross down.
Mhm.
You're not Jesus.
Yeah. And so ultimately then if you're able to do that, then you show more compassion for yourself and then you're building that compassion skill and you're able to show more compassion towards other people and hopefully towards an end of reducing conflict and in reducing arguments.
And can I add one more thing?
Yeah.
I feel like if you take that approach,
Yeah.
people are going to recognize
Mhm.
that in you.
Mm.
And they're not going to perceive you as quite the hypocrite that they did before.
Mhm.
If you're acknowledging that you're full of flaws
Mhm.
and you're full of mistakes just like everybody else,
Mhm.
and you're owning that, acknowledging it and living that, and you're
Mhm.
not acting like you're better than, or you're not people aren't sensing resentment towards them,
Mhm.
I feel like you will get something different back from people too.
Mhm.
They will perceive you differently.
Hmm.
um, I think they'll perceive you as less of a hypocrite because, in fact, you will be less of a hypocrite.
And also, it it can encourage other people then to acknowledge their own flaws, right? It's like, well, first of all, the first question is, why is it a bad thing? Why is hypocrisy bad? Why is it bad to be perceived as a hypocrite?
Mm.
And right, and then why are we such hypocrites? So the first
And you're
question,
going to answer those,
well, I
right?
don't know. It's just it's like he says, appearance versus reality, and the gossip. So we're all trying to make ourselves out to be something worthwhile, something that can be part of the crowd, that we're part of this, we're part of this society, that I'm worthy of being taken care of, and I'll go ahead and take care of you. It's about, it all comes down to survival, right? It's like, in order to survive, we need help, generally speaking, right? We're like
And
the one of the
you've got to
only,
be worth something.
yeah, we're the only, didn't he say in earlier in the book that we're like the only species on the planet that has to be cared for completely and entirely by our mothers for like 2, 3, 4 years? Otherwise, we just,
Hmm.
right? And so we need to be, we need other people to take care of us. So we're always kind of engaged engaged in ingratiating ourselves to other people, and or somehow making up through earning money or gaining power, making up for our inability to ingratiate ourselves. Like, who knows? It's all about acquiring survival mechanisms. And
Hmm.
so, and so, on the one hand, we engage in hypocrisy as a survival technique, right? It's like, wow, I really appreciate you lending me $5 because I really need $5. And then when I have $5 that I could lend you, I'm going to keep it because I really need $5, right? That's the
Hmm.
hypocrisy, because we want that $5, but to survive, right? So we can buy a loaf of bread. But then we don't want that other person to realize that we've kept the $5. So it's like,
Mm.
well, right? It's like, I appreciate that you lent me $5, and I'm going to keep my $5, but I'm going to somehow make it out like I have a really good reason. Like, oh, I have a kid that needs milk and you don't, or what, who knows, right? And
Hmm.
so here's the thing. That person who lent us $5, they go ahead and do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like,
Yes.
who knows what their reason was for lending the $5? Maybe because they have 50 and they just want to make it out like, oh, they're so like, whatever, right? But the thing is we all do it, and it's in our DNA, right?
Right. Oh, for sure. It
Okay, and
must
so
be adaptive, right? It must have
right.
contributed to our survival.
And
Right.
so here's the thing. It's like, if we can let our guard down, if I can let my guard down with you because I trust you and I know that
Hmm.
you're going to care about me, I might be
Hmm.
able to say to you, Dean, I took $5 out of your wallet or whatever, right? And it'd be like, maybe,
Yeah, just
you
don't
know,
say it too often.
right? um, but if you've revealed to me that you have your flaws, you've done things maybe that you're not proud of, and you don't even know why. Of course, we know it's the elephant made you do it. We know why, but then I can, it's like we can all let our guards down, and we can be more authentic and honest with each other, and then maybe we can, if we can have honest conversations about our petty theft or our our whatever, then we could work through it. We could grow. We could come to the other side of like, okay, I'm not going to I'm not going to snitch from my friends anymore, like whatever, right? Like you can,
Right.
but
And petty theft being a metaphor for
exactly.
our flaws,
Exactly. Like
our
whatever.
shortcomings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what else occurred to me? And it's less, I guess, rooted in evolution, which, by the way, I love. I
Mhm.
love that not only does the book, but that we dig into evolution. I think
Mhm.
that is a fascinating and endlessly interesting subject, which I adore. I think it's the most important scientific discovery ever,
Hmm.
the idea of evolution. But the other thing, I guess it's more of a common sense kind of thought that occurred to me as I was reading it, or maybe I read it and it didn't occur to me at all. But
Mhm.
I like to make great ideas my own.
Mhm. That's right.
Yeah, I do. Um, which is around reasons for being hypocritical,
Mhm.
right? The reason that I'm very biased towards myself and very accurate about others is because I wonder, is because I know what's in my heart,
Mm.
right? I know me and I know
Mhm.
my intentions and I know I'm not a bad person,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
When I do little tiny things that aren't right,
Mhm.
I know I forgive myself. I know I don't mean I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to get through my day.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to
Mhm.
do the best I can, right?
Mhm.
But when I see you do it,
Mm.
I don't know what's in your heart.
Right.
For all I know, for
Mhm.
all I know, you're trying to steal that $5 because you're just
Mhm.
a no good Nick.
Right. Mhm.
But when I do it,
Mhm.
look,
You
come
have
on,
the
I don't mean
you have the best of intentions. You know it's
I
right.
didn't mean anything by it. I just needed $5. And right, I know that.
Mhm.
So I think that is at play a little bit too.
Mm.
We're very comfortable with ourselves. We
Mhm.
trust ourselves. We know ourselves, we think.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we know that we typically don't perceive harm from ourselves.
Mhm.
But other people are sources of potential harm
Mm.
or damage or hurt feelings. So I just feel like that might be, I wonder if that's another factor about why we misjudge, why there's such a discrepancy between how we perceive ourselves and judge ourselves on the moral spectrum
Mhm.
compared to how we perceive or judge others.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that was I think illustrated in the study he talked about with the money, like people being asked, well, how much money would you donate to this charity? And how much money do you think everybody else will donate? And they always
Mm.
overestimate how much they donate, always underestimate how much other people would donate.
Right.
And it was, and they were usually wrong, right? They were casting themselves in a nice light, casting everybody else in a poor light. And yeah, it is really interesting the bias that we have about our own intentions and then our suspicions about how other people are going to be.
Oh my God. That is like that's big time in life. But hey, Lisa,
Yeah.
can I ask you a
What?
question?
Yeah.
You know that thing that people do around money, like talking about money?
Mm.
You know how that thing that people do, like, so I work with someone, a colleague,
Mhm.
whom I adore.
Mm.
I mean, she's just a fantastic human being.
Mhm.
And on occasion, we'll order lunch together.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
we'll get lunch together.
Mhm.
And maybe I'll pay or maybe she'll pay. And then we want to settle up, right?
Mhm.
Like it's really convenient if one person just pays.
Right.
and then we settle up afterwards, right?
After the meal's over?
Yeah, or whatever, when it's delivered.
Right, okay.
Or if you go out to dinner,
Mhm.
it usually doesn't happen with friends, but it happens with my family. You go out to dinner, and then one person wants to pay,
Mhm.
and then blah, 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 all this. And then,
Mhm.
so, but forget about the family thing. Um, the food will come and it's time to settle up, and people will refuse to be paid.
Mm.
You know that
Mhm.
happens, right?
Mhm.
You've seen that happen. Like, no, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no. Please, no. No, no, no. You don't. No. No. I'm not gonna take it. Is
Mhm.
that is that related to the ideas in this chapter, do you think? Not to put you on the spot, but you are the thinker here.
I don't know. I don't know how that might apply to the hypocrisy, but I definitely think it's about increasing their social value, trying to look good in the eyes of other people. And there could also be sort of like
Mm. Uh-huh.
maybe like a manipulation too of being able to hold that over people after the fact down the road.
Right.
And then there's
Right.
also like God, and then there's the people who want to be martyrs, right? Of like they create situations that then later they can complain about. So
Oh, uh-huh.
no, no,
Right.
no, let me get this, let me get this. And then a week later with their other friend, oh, that Dean, I always have to pay for our meal.
Right.
I always end up paying for the meal. And it's like, ugh, whatever. I
I
don't know.
know.
I don't know
I
what that
just
is.
it
It,
doesn't
it
quite I feel like it fits in somehow, but it doesn't feel hypocritical.
Just people are weird. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be a million reasons why somebody would do
That does get the blanket people are weird
that.
comment. It does. I mean, and
Yeah.
I am too. I mean, I get it. I get it. I mean, sometimes it's me. I'm like, no, 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 let me get it. No, 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 no. Please,
Mm.
come on. No, 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 let me.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't fight too hard.
Right.
I mean, I'll put up a little bit of fight, and then I'll take the money
Mhm. Mm.
just to keep the peace.
And I'll just be like, "Really? Oh, thanks. You're so nice."
I know, and I feel like that's the way. You know what? It's just like settle up, settle up. We're not buying each other's food at this point. We're not there.
Mm.
It's not where we are
Mhm.
in our relationship.
Mhm. Yeah. So you were talking about Bill Maher and and like the hypocrisy in government right now in the politics, right? And how it's just so uh in your face, so full frontal now. It makes you wonder, yeah, they have no shame. It's almost like they're wearing their hypocrisy as a badge of honor. And it makes me wonder, like, when I first asked, well, what's wrong with hypocrisy and what's so bad about being considered a hypocrite? Whatever the answer is to those questions, why doesn't that no longer apply? Like, what the fuck is going on out there?
Are you talking about the election of Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah.
Well,
What
yeah.
what was the I can't, what was the example Bill Maher was talking about
I
today?
love Bill Maher.
I love him.
But while you're thinking of that, I'll
Mm.
share with the readers the passage that Bill Maher commented about how now we have the evil other in Donald Trump for progressives or people to fight against. And the passage from the book is, um, it became clear to me that people want to believe they're on a mission from God, or that they are fighting for some secular good, right? So it's not a religious thing. They're fighting for animals or fetuses or women's rights. and you can't have much of a mission without good allies and a good enemy.
Mm.
And it's why I've heard so many people from Jane Fonda to Sandra Bernhard, who I listen to on XM radio, who I'm like a little bit obsessed with, and other, liberal progressives that are like really sort of the fighting type. I hear them talking about how Donald Trump winning is ultimately such a good thing because they
Mhm.
feel, and I've heard other people just in passing, people that I talk to, oh, a parent at my school, was saying she feels more connected and
Mhm.
more a part of the community than ever.
Mhm.
And I
I
was like, that's
It's
so
true. I had
interesting.
that same thought. I had that same conversation, and I was saying that people in North America have it so damn good. We have it so good. We don't even realize it. And all this bitching that like the Republicans do about, you know, they don't make enough money and their healthcare premiums are too high. I mean, they have healthcare. It's like they're the poorest people today live better than the richest people did 100 years ago.
Hmm.
We have it so good. And
Right.
and and liberals, I think, have become quite complacent. It's like we don't win. Like Bill Maher says, we bring knives to the gunfight. And a lot of the rights that people have fought for, we have, women can vote and whatever. And it just seems like there was this complacency going on. And now with Donald Trump having been elected, it's almost like it's genius. You couldn't even have created a better scenario where all of a sudden people are like, holy shit, this is a lot more, my rights are a lot more fragile than I realized, you know? And
Mm.
and the the fight that my parents and grandparents had to take on for me to have the life that I have, I shouldn't be taking for granted, and that I have to continue on the fight. And I think it's pretty interesting in that respect how it's kind of galvanizing people's sort of protest power. It's like you haven't really seen this kind of uh, unity in terms of the marches and the activism since the 60s. Eh,
Interesting.
right? And the world over too, like not just North America. So, in
I
that
guess
respect.
I'd always thought of all of those comments like that as, like the people just trying to make the best of it.
Right.
Like some sorry consolation prize. Well, at least we get to protest and fight now, but I guess maybe there's something more to it.
Well, and that's, I mean, the thing about this book, right? It's like, you said earlier before we started, there's a lot of, you said there's a lot of studies and science and evidence in this chapter.
Did I say that?
Yeah, kind.
It's
I don't.
true.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
before the yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true
but
though.
right, but what's so interesting about how he structured this book is it's like these are truths at our cellular level, right? It's like the fact that we're hypocrites, it can't be changed, right? It's like he's got where basically you can recognize it and then you can work to reduce it, but it's a truth that is in everybody. And
Mhm.
so if you accept it as a truth, then and then look at events and look at the world around you through that filter, it's very illuminating, right? And so um
So this
and so I was just going to say like this idea of we all were most effective or most passionate when we have this good versus evil fight. I mean, it seems like shit, haven't we evolved beyond that? Like, are we really living like we're in a comic book? Do we have to be that way? And it's like, yes, we do. We are that way. And
Hmm.
so if you just recognize that as a fact, then use that knowledge for the better.
Right. Um, so it brings up this other question, and I was just having this conversation with someone earlier this week. Um, reading this book, there is this theme of this is how we are,
Mhm.
and there are things that you can't change
Mhm.
about yourself.
Mhm.
Like even with happiness, we read earlier in the book where sure, there's a range. You can maximize your happiness within a certain range,
Mhm.
but you're not going to go outside that range, this predetermined range. And if your range is sort of on the sadder end of the scale, then you can do things to maximize it,
Mhm.
drugs, meditation, or therapy, but
Mhm.
you can't go outside your range.
Mhm.
So then the question comes up about so according to this book, I'm led to believe that people don't change. But there's a lot of work that I do in my profession and that other people do as part of their work and professions and all this kind of stuff that's about changing people,
Mhm.
about personal growth,
Mhm.
um, or whatever skill you might have. So, how do we resolve the question of we don't really change versus in a lot of parts of our lives, we are called upon to either facilitate the change of others
Mhm.
or change ourselves.
Well, I think first of all, people don't change spontaneously. That's one thing, right? It's like people people have to a recognize that a change is needed, and then b desire to change, and then c put a shitload of work into it. But then to address your original premise that it seems like he's saying that you really can't change. Um well, it's interesting. I don't know if it's like a can of worms, right? Like is it really about changing, or is it about reframing? Is it about, you know, the little kid with ADD, for example, who um can't concentrate on their work. So without medication, that kid is not going to be able to concentrate on their work. It's just
Hmm.
not in their brain chemistry. So maybe the kid can't change their brain chemistry, but you can change the circumstances, you can change the expectations, you can change the strategies, right? You can change um the learning style, right? Uh so I think that this book to me is useful for me when I think about it as instead of me beating my head against the wall trying to change things about myself that after having read this book I realize can't be changed. It's a wall that my head's not going to be able to break, right? Take that information and then rework my strategies, rework my expectations, rework my
Hmm.
ability to accept myself and others, right? And so and increase my happiness um you know through sort of a methodical kind of educated with a methodical educated strategy as opposed to just me in a vacuum trying to figure out, well, what the fuck is going on here and having no ability to figure it out.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
So,
So I guess it's about. So I guess in a sense, people can. So I guess in a sense, you could look at it as people don't change, but people can change their environments or their circumstances,
Mhm.
or their strategies,
Mhm.
and
Their
adapt.
expectations. Yeah.
So I guess we could differentiate between changing and adapting. I wonder if
Mhm.
that's a useful different distinction.
Well, what is important to you about figuring this part out? Like, what is it that?
Right. Well, because if we don't change, then some things become,
Pointless.
yeah. I mean, and I mean, the conversation that I had earlier in the week was about people becoming better at their jobs,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I've been in a line of work that involves helping people get better at their jobs for a
Mhm.
long time. I mean, I've been doing that kind of work for a
And have they
while.
been getting better at their jobs or not so much?
Well, sometimes it's hard to measure,
Mhm.
right? And I think because the process of getting better at a skill, especially if it's a complex
Mhm.
skill,
Mhm.
happens over a very long period of time and involves lots of different people along
Mhm.
the way. You're influenced by a lot of different people. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Some
Mhm.
people, I mean, I know I can tell you personally because I've been with me all along. So I know that I have, but is
Mhm.
that me changing? I don't know.
Is
Have
that
I
you actually
changed?
changing, or have you changed, or has your perception of yourself changed?
Well, no, I mean, I am better at things now than I was
Yeah.
before. I am actually better. Is that I
Well,
used to
that's
have
not
this.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's I guess it's like in what respects are you talking about change, right?
Yeah. And does this even
Like
matter? I
learning
don't
a
know.
skill. Obviously,
Does
you
that
can
change?
yeah, you can change from not knowing how to play the piano to knowing how to play the piano. Like I don't know if that's change, that's learning a skill, but I mean, when you talk about did your ability to sit down and practice for however long in a day, day after day after day, did that change, you know? Cuz some people can do that and some people can't. There's right? Some people could never learn an instrument. Although a lot more
Well,
people could
why can't you
than we
learn how to
think.
sit down and concentrate? Why can't if someone can learn how to play the piano
Mhm.
over time, why can't someone learn how to sit down and learn how to play the piano? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like one is the skill of learning to play the piano, and the other is the skill of learning how to play the piano.
Mhm. Yeah. Learning
So
how to
what's the
learn.
yeah, learning how to learn. What's the difference?
I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's a question. I mean, it's an interesting dilemma because the book does suggest is happiness a skill?
Mhm. I think
Can we
so.
learn can we learn how to be happy? Then why is there a range of happiness that I am restricted to based upon my genetics? Can't I learn? I mean, if it's a skill, why can't I sit down and learn? I mean, I believe that you can't. So there's a difference in obviously learning how to play the piano and learning how to be happy. I don't know that I have at this point a clear conception of the distinction between those two things, but I do like inherently sense that there's a big difference between them.
Well, I think even if you have a particular happiness set point, um, there's still there's certain things that you do that'll put you at the bottom of the range or way underneath the range, right? Even if
Mhm.
you have a happiness set point, I think the problem nowadays is that a lot of people are way below their set point. Whether
Mm.
it's low or not low, they're far beneath it. because they've isolated themselves, because they don't have friends, they not with their family, they're not part of a community, they don't have success in their job, they've never read a self-improvement book in their life, they don't eat their vegetables, there's 5 million things that they're doing to sabotage their quality of life,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so, um yeah, if you say to yourself, if you're aware of the fact that happiness is attainable, but you have to do certain things to progress towards it, and if you believe that's true, and then you put in the effort to do those things, then you could get there. And sure, maybe you're one of the unfortunate ones where, you do all of that and sure you get better, but you're not maybe over the moon like maybe some other people are. But
Mhm.
it's like, regardless, you do what you can do to get where you can get, right?
Right.
So, and then for me, a lot of well, in this chapter, when I think about the politics and the hypocrisy of like, I find like there's hypocrisy on both sides, like the Democrats and the like politicians, like the whole thing is just so mind boggling. And for me, what's important, what helps me is, uh, I want to say to not get angry about it. It helps my happiness to not be getting all pissed off uh, about it all. And yet, activists might say, well, you got to get angry or else you'll never be able to affect change. But it's like, I'm not about to be going out protesting anyway. So I'm just going to sit at home and not be angry. And, and I will, and protect my mental health.
Yeah, well, I mean, I question that assertion anyway, whether or not
Yeah.
I can go out, I can pick up a sign and go out and picket or protest and not be angry.
Mhm.
Right? I mean, I can do
Oh
that and
yeah,
not be
yeah.
angry. I don't
That's
have to be
probably
angry.
that probably would be preferable, I would think.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
why what it was such a waste of like don't let it waste your life. Like
Mhm.
I mean, and things are bad enough, but if you're going to be happy and don't do anything to protect your rights or the
Mhm.
rights of others,
Mhm.
which is how I feel these days. I mean, I feel like, in a sense, I feel like none of my rights are currently being threatened.
Mm.
I mean, I've always, like, for most of my life, I felt like one right or another of mine personally is like on the block, is like on the plank.
Mm.
But I don't feel that way now. I feel like all of my rights are none of them are being threatened. It's others. Other
Mm.
people are now very vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, and so I mean you can't let it go. You cannot let any of this bullshit that's going on slide
Mm.
because it'll come right back around to you before you know it.
Mm.
There's that
Mhm.
old saying, they came for these people and I didn't say anything. They came for these people, I didn't say anything. And they came for me.
Mhm.
And there was no one left.
Mhm. Right.
So you got to do
Mhm.
something. My challenge is generally, what to do.
Mhm.
What's the most effective thing to do? But you got to do something. I mean, who knows? Trump is just so unpredictable. I
Mhm.
don't know what he's going to do.
Hmm.
Who knows what he's going to do next? I don't think he knows.
There was an interesting part of the chapter that reminded me of him.
Mm.
Um, you keep talking. I want to find it here.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so it's the other part of the chapter. God, it was so interesting. I love, like, there are all of these he doesn't really address it directly, but he dances around the whole religious idea in this chapter where he talks about. I thought it was interesting when the part about the myth of pure evil,
Mm.
where
Mhm.
good and evil, good and evil are fabrications in our own
Mhm.
minds.
Mhm.
They're not real.
He says we have a deep need to understand violence and cruelty through the myth of pure evil.
Hmm. Like we'll say something is evil, but it's only evil from from depending on your perspective.
Mhm. Well, and like underlying that assumption is, oh, I would never do that. I would never, beat somebody to death for the last loaf of bread. Well, maybe if you were in that situation, maybe you would. That's pure evil. That's got to be pure evil. They have to label it because nobody wants to face the facts that they might do that exact same thing.
Well, and when talking to the perpetrator, from the perpetrator's perspective, um, researchers found that they rarely think they're doing anything wrong,
Mhm.
right? That isn't so. It's not a judgment about whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong, but the
Mhm.
fact is, he talks about, he says, all the way from spousal abuse to genocide.
Mhm.
The perpetrator rarely believes they are doing anything wrong, really.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's interesting is that when we try for ourselves to figure out what's right or wrong, there's our own emotion and our own internal moral compass really is a shitty guide because right because we have our biases and we have our hypocrisy, we have our selfishness, and it's like everything that we know about morality and ethics we've actually learned probably on an intellectual level. It
Right.
right.
Well, and people feel justified, right?
Mhm.
Like I talk to kids every day
Mhm.
where they've done something wrong
Mhm.
and they did it.
Mhm.
But but she started it. He did
Mhm.
it first,
Mhm.
right? Incidentally, we heard
Mhm.
Donald Trump say that a lot during the campaign. He did it
Yeah.
first. She did it first.
Mhm.
So they never perceive themselves as doing anything wrong. They're
Mhm.
justified because
Mhm.
somebody else attacked them
Mhm.
or some other like yeah, I beat my wife, but she's got a
Mhm.
mouth on her.
Mhm.
You ought to hear
Yeah.
the way she talks to me,
Mhm.
right? Or she didn't, she
Right.
makes a shitty sandwich, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah. Well, and so one thing I feel like is interesting about religions is their ethical underpinning, right? Like one thing that struck me recently, and I don't remember who. I hate that I say I don't remember so often on this podcast.
God, I hate that too. I'm so glad you said that. Oh my god, I don't remember you saying that.
Ah, I don't remember who was talking about something, but he had gone to oh, it was Tim Kaine, that's right. So he went to Jesuit school, and I've heard this more than once that the Jesuits um have this high standard of service and um hard work, right? And so it's like they're students of their school, they go out into the world and that's what they go do. And it's like it's not that it's their instinct to do it or that they just spontaneously were compelled to be of service and so they went to Jesuit school. It was like they were taught to be that way, right?
Right.
And so they can just go out in the world and they can sort of override their elephant, so to speak, and see something and be able to just say, that's wrong or that's right. And it has nothing to do with based on their emotions, right? It's like, it's this intellectual certainty of this is wrong and this is right. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I've made a commitment to do what's right, whether I like it or not, right? Because
Mhm.
we all, right? We all face those tough decisions of, of, giving back. I'm trying to say, the cashier has given us too much change,
Mhm.
right?
Right. I love that.
Mm. Or undercharged us for some really expensive product.
Oh my god, I love it. Or both.
Hmm. And
Yeah, go on. Go on. Then what happens?
well, some people, when it's not a lot of money, feel all proud of themselves when they say, oh, you gave me too much change. Here you go. And they're like, oh,
Mm.
thanks.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then when they charged you $30 for something instead of $300, it's a lot harder to not really just walk out the door being like, oh, what a shame she
Yeah.
made that mistake.
Shh. You know
Shh.
what? You know what I do? I
What?
act like I didn't notice.
Yeah.
I
I bet.
totally I
Yeah.
convince myself.
Hmm.
I totally convince myself that I didn't notice.
I
I
didn't
didn't even
notice,
see.
or else that there's some special running that I didn't realize was going on, and I'm not about to question it.
Right. Right. It was a big old discount.
Yeah. But but then it's like it's your hypocrisy kicking in there, right?
Ooh. Mhm. Into
Right?
high gear.
If I owned that store or if I was the cashier, I would like for my customers to right then and there say, "Oh, you made a mistake."
Well, yeah, you
Essentially,
would.
right?
Yeah.
So then why is it when I'm the customer, I want to run out of the store like I just hit the jackpot
Oh, well, I know. You know why.
because the elephant? Is it the
Mhm.
elephant?
Well, you want to be on the winning end of the stick.
Well, because we're hypocrites. Yeah, we know why, because we're hypocrites.
Well, we're
We
hypocrites, but
we want it. We
also
want, yeah, we want good
we
for
want what we
ourselves
want.
and
We
in
want what
in
we
both.
want, and we do what we want.
Right. We want what we want, what we want it. We don't give a fuck. Fuck you. That's for
But
me.
also those of us who, like, let's say after a kill.
Hmm. Yeah. What happens to us after a kill?
Well, after a kill,
Yeah.
let's say the leader of the pack is divvying up the carcass
Mhm.
and they give us too big of a piece.
Mm.
Those of us who keep it,
Mhm.
who drag it into the bushes and greedily devour it
Mhm.
secretly, are
Mhm.
more likely to survive,
Mm.
right? And
Mhm.
pass on our genes.
Right.
So versus those of us who like, oh no, 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 no. You've
Mm.
given me too much. I can't take it. You can keep it. We died,
Mhm.
down by the creek the next week.
Because that big ol' hunk of meat is a sure thing, and it's a concrete um resource.
Yes.
Whereas what that other thing is, oh no, 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 you gave me too much, you take it. That's just us building up appearances, building up our
Right.
mythology, our reputation in hopes that we can cash in on that reputation some way, somehow, sometime. Well,
Everybody
I'd rather
forgets.
have a big old hunk of meat, right?
Right. Because everybody forgets. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, isn't she so nice? Look at that. She could have just taken that extra hunk of meat. Or that
Mhm.
extra
Yeah.
$270, but she didn't. Oh, she's so sweet. She's so nice." And then
Mhm.
on to the next thing. You're forgotten.
Yeah, you're forgotten, and then worse, down the road, when she gives you too much meat, you just take it off into the bushes, and you don't tell her the same thing, right? So,
Right. Right.
so now
I
she's
mean,
getting screwed both ways.
right. You don't make it onto the news
Yeah.
for turning in the extra meat.
Mhm.
You make it onto the news for stealing the extra meat when they know
Mhm.
about it, right?
Yeah. So,
It's the way it
yeah.
is. It's the way it is.
But my original point is what I find interesting about being rigorously schooled in ethics is that you don't have to rely on your emotions to help you figure out what to do. Yeah, as
Yeah,
I say that,
right.
I don't know. It's
It
just
doesn't make any fucking sense. No,
uh,
I'm kidding.
well, it just reminded me of the part about the people who had no emotions and then they were paralyzed and they couldn't make a decision, right? Because they had brain damage and they had no emotions.
Oh
I don't
shit!
know.
Right,
I
right,
guess
right.
it's like
That was a couple episodes ago.
I don't want to have to feel guilty about taking all that product that I didn't pay for.
God, did you do that?
I
Tell
didn't
us
do
about
that.
that. Tell
No,
us
I
about
didn't
the
do
time
that.
you did that. Yes, you
No,
did.
it
From
was a
the from
hypothetical.
the superstore.
It's like
After they lowered your credit limit at the superstore,
ah,
you stole from them.
those
You ripped
fuckers.
them
I didn't
off.
steal from them. They gave it to me. They didn't know, but they
They
did.
didn't realize they gave it to you.
But it's like, why do I have to feel bad about that? Why can't I just feel good
Exactly.
that I have it?
Yeah.
That product, that
Why do you have to have a
that
conscience?
score. Exactly. Here's the thing.
Why can't
Why didn't I just do the right thing at the time?
right? Or why can't you just be a sociopath and not let it bother you? What's wrong with you?
God, that'd be nice.
Wouldn't it? The peace of the peace of a sociopath. They sleep like a baby every night.
Huh. Huh. Well,
Not that I would
whatever.
know, but
I try to I try not to beat myself up about shit.
no. What good
Or
does it
else
do?
I just be like a bloody little pulp curled up on the floor of no good to anybody. Oh, whatever.
All right. Well, hey, you know what time it is?
Is it time to stop all this pontification?
I think it is. I think it is.
Okay.
We went all around it, though. We went
Yeah.
all around it. We hit it hard. So, Lisa,
Yes?
check this out.
Okay.
Nobody has to miss a single episode of our podcast.
Oh, really?
They can subscribe to our mailing list on our website, foolsonfire.com.
They can also subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Search Fools on Fire. And perhaps, maybe, write a review. That'd be awesome. Our Facebook page is /Fools on Fire.
We're on Instagram. Fools on Fire
Uh-huh.
is our Instagram handle.
Yeah?
Is that what they call it?
I don't know.
All right.
They can send us an email, fools@foolsonfire.com. Also, follow us on Twitter. The handle is @firedupfools. That's what it is.
Bingo.
Yep. Bippity boppy. Bye-bye.